All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. This episode, we are doing I almost said annual, but that's not actually accurate. But with Friday the 13th fast approaching, it actually will be this Friday when this episode comes out. We're recording it a little bit early. We're about a month away from it as the recording of this is taking place. But we are doing our traditional Friday the 13th tradition. I guess is what you would call it. And we're covering a Friday the 13th topic, and this time we're taking a step out of this. I think this is actually the first time that we've really done this, where we've taken a step away from the original series, and we're not jumping to Freddy versus Jason or not doing any of the New Line movies, and we're not doing the remake or anything. We're taking a step away because the last Friday the 13th movie we covered was Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And
sorry, folks, about that one, by the way.
Well, that's better than Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, yeah, we won't even talk about that.
So we wanted to kind of steered in a little bit of a different direction and not jump right to something that neither one of us wanted to talk about. Doesn't mean we won't get there. We might. We'll see. But this episode, we are talking about a fan film. I think this is the first fan film we've done on here. We've done a couple of, we've done several low-budget movies on here, but this is the first fan film of a franchise that we've done. And we're talking about 2017's Never Hike Alone.
When did you see this film?
I saw this movie shortly after it was first released or made available. So if it was released in 2017, then that's when it was.
Wow.
Yeah, because, this, along with a lot of the other fan films, because, they're fan films, so they're technically not allowed to make any money off of that. With as much as some of these guys are raising in their Kickstarters and stuff, I would be surprised if they're not actually making money. So we'll have to see not that they're making millions and millions of dollars, but they got to be pocketing a little bit.
Some money, sure. Well, before we get into the movie, being that Friday the 13th is fast approaching, and this will probably be released, obviously, on that day, I just wanted to see what your opinion was, and if anybody has an opinion for me, just send me a Facebook message. Let me know what you think about this. I'm like I've said in the past, I'm a mask collector, and I have, in terms of the Friday the 13th Jason masks, my favorite artist in terms of who makes the best hockey masks is Crash Cunningham, and I've got one of his Friday the 13th Part 3 masks and his Friday the 13th Part 5 A New Beginning masks, and I'm kind of in the market now for. I'm thinking about getting another Jason hockey mask, and it's sort of a mix between do I go with the final chapter mask, which is basically the Part 3 mask, just more beat up with a big axe cut and a lot of blood, or do I go with the Part 6 Jason Lives mask? So what's your opinion? And then any listeners too, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I thought you were going to jump right in and say you were going to get a Never Hike Alone mask.
Oh. No, I'm pretty, when it comes to these masks, I'm very picky. Like I've mentioned before in the past, I'm what they call a mask snob. So I'm very picky on my masks, and I love the Part 3 mask because that's the first mask. Part 4 mask is the same thing, just again, like I said, more beat up, and then everything after that was kind of different and altered a little bit. And so I'm kind of right now, I'm wondering whether or not to get the Part 4, the final chapter mask, which is really cool. The Crash Cunningham does a great job of that, or get the Jason Lives mask.
I would probably go with, just because it's my personal favorite Friday movie, I'd probably go with Part 6.
Part 6, okay. I'll keep that in mind then. So anyway, yeah, if anybody can send me, go to Horrorhead's Facebook page, send me a message on the instant messenger, and let me know your thoughts on that. Part 4 or Part 6? Which one should I pick up? And I don't know, maybe we'll put a picture of it on our Facebook page or something.
For you just recently saw this, correct?
I saw it this morning. The first time ever. Yep. I've heard of it. I've heard about it. I've it's been one of those. Actually, some of the people I watch on YouTube, like that do horror movies reviews and things, they actually toss this into their Friday the 13th review thing. Like a lot of these guys put in like the rating the films in a franchise, and they actually toss this one in there. So that's how highly esteemed this is amongst fans, like from what I'm gathering.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And like I said, this isn't the only fan film. And I don't think this was necessarily I know this definitely was not the first fan film ever. I'm not sure if this was the first Friday the 13th fan film, like big one that came out. But there are a couple other ones. Like there's another one that's not too old called Vengeance, which that's another one that a lot of people really like. I've seen that one as well. But I will say out of all of the fan films I've watched, Friday the 13th and other horror franchises, I will say that this one is, to me, probably the best done one. And at the same time, I will say that it's actually kind of weird that this one, even though it's based in the Friday the 13th world, that this one really doesn't have the same feel as the Paramount movies do. This one kind of has more of a found footage / documentary type of feel to it. But overall, I thought this movie was very well done. And it's really super short. I mean, it clocks in at just under an hour, so.
Yeah, which is funny because I know that they've been talking about, obviously the next Friday the 13th film has been in development hell since, the remake, and now they've got all these court cases going on and all this stuff. And I know like they had actually talked about a found footage, type of film. So this is kind of an interesting take from a fan's perspective. And like you said, it doesn't follow, like if you look at the Paramount films, like basically the Paramount all of the the first 8 Friday films, which are the classics, that those are the best ones in my opinion. They all follow a very similar, straightforward formula. I mean, it's like practically the same movie, just a few changes here and there. And this one is obviously like completely different from that. It's like a found footage or a documentary type of style, Blair Witch type of Friday the 13th, which was kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of a neat way to to do it. I thought it was very creative.
It also too, this one, it's kind of interesting the way that they do it, because if you actually pay attention to the guy talking in this movie, because I mean it's just one guy in it, so there's not really a big cast at all. But when he is doing the thing that they do in a lot of the earlier Friday the 13th movies, is he goes through and kind of retells the whole Pamela Voorhees story and Jason drowning, and Pamela Voorhees getting decapitated by one of the survivors, but Jason was in the lake and saw it happen, and then kind of goes on to say that the legend has it that he was going to have his revenge on anybody that ever stepped foot into Camp Crystal Lake after the fact. And so to me, it was kind of interesting the way that they kind of retconned all of the sequels outside of Friday the 13th, or if it was kind of one of those things where everything that happened at Crystal Lake was so horrific that nobody ever really talked about it. So then it did become legend more than, everybody's just like, oh yeah, that didn't really happen, even though it really did. So I thought that was kind of an interesting approach to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Which was kind of similar to the remake, where the first section of the remake, where you've got this whole different story where these, I don't know what, campers are looking for weed, and they stumble upon Crystal Lake. It's got kind of that same thing where it's like, oh, there's this mythology behind here, what happened, and they kind of go from there. I stepped into this thinking I had very low expectations because again, it's a fan film. I'm thinking like, well, how professional is it going to be? What's the editing going to be like, and is it going to be worth sitting through for an hour? And watching it, I was very impressed. I mean, obviously the filmmakers knew what they were doing. I thought they did a great job with suspense and kind of carrying the story along.
Yeah, I did too. I really did. And I remember the first time I watched it, and starts off with that, this like YouTuber guy who's filming himself, and he's, essentially what happens is he's going to go for this. I can't remember how long he said it was. It's like a 45-mile or 75-mile hike that was going to take him like 3 days or something. He was basically, what he was doing was like going to a lake and then turning around and coming back. He kind of got like sidetracked or something, but he came across this no trespassing sign and goes into the area anyway. And then, like you said, discovers that it is Camp Crystal Lake. But
right.
When that first opening scene, when he's like in the Jeep and he's doing the like, oh, welcome everybody. And the first thing I thought of was like, oh crap, is this going to be like Friday the 13th meets Halloween Resurrection? Is that what we're watching here?
Right. I thought they did a great job with like just kind of building up the tension and like, oh, he finds this, no trespassing sign, and then he goes in, and yeah, I thought it was great. They did a good job of, how they started this film.
Yeah. Then once he gets into Camp Crystal Lake, he, that's when he tells the story of the legend of Pamela and Jason Voorhees. And then, sure enough, he kind of stumbles into Jason Voorhees, and then all hell breaks loose. But the only thing that did bug me with, I guess, they kind of had to do this, otherwise it would have been a really, really, really short story, is he gets injured after he gets away from Jason, and then he goes back to get his stuff. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you, man?
Yeah. And another scene I thought was kind of weird was when Jason throws him off the, he finds this, basically where Jason's been living, and he goes up to the second story area, and there's this door that he's like, wow, back in the day they used to have these doors that lead to nowhere, and he opens the door, and it's like, it's a drop, and if you step down, you're going to fall. And he, then, he encounters Jason shortly after, and Jason throws him down this thing. And the first thing he does when he lands is, oh, I got to get my cell phone.
Yeah. Well, it was what do they call those things?
Oh, like the GoPro?
Yeah, it was a GoPro. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it was the same thing. Yeah. Like, oh, I got to get that. Which I thought was kind of funny too.
Right. Like the first time, yeah, if you fall from, 2 stories down, the last thing you're going to do is worry about your camera. You're going to be like running through the woods and trying to get out of there.
That same scene, though, was one of the most badass scenes of the movie as well, when he throws the guy out the door, and it's on the second story, and it's, this like barn kind of like structure is what it almost seems like.
Yeah.
And Jason just jumps down.
Yeah,
which
that was
kind of cool.
What did you think of the portrayal of Jason?
I thought it was pretty good. That one of the things that I still am not 100% sure on, just because I haven't ever really done too much like actual research into what the backstory is on this. I do know that he is referred to as Ghost Jason from time to time. But I thought it was pretty good. I don't know if the mask was left the way that it was intentionally, as far as like they didn't want to get into any sort of like trademark sort of dispute or anything with having like the chevrons on the mask, or if that was like, if that was just supposed to be, because I always thought that was, but the first time I saw it, and then I've seen it a couple of times, and that's always one of the things like I always kind of thought with this is, was Jason real or not? Because it almost has. It's kind of weird because when you watch this, it borrows from a lot of the different Friday the 13th movies.
It does.
And where you kind of get into that, is Jason real or not, is when towards the end of the movie, and sorry, spoilers, kids, if you made it this far, but we're gonna spoil a little bit. But when the main character gets onto the ambulance, which again is like another horror like trope, like the guy's out in the middle of nowhere by himself, and then all of a sudden this ambulance finds him.
Right in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, but when he's like on the ambulance and he sees like Jason in the back of the ambulance, but Jason's not really there.
Yeah. Right.
So
very much like one of those flashbacks you see in like Friday the 13th Part 5.
Right. Yep. So that's one of the things where I always kind of like, oh, is Jason real or is he not real? Or is it like one of these things where, you know, you get, and that's the other thing too, was where was this ambulance at? Were they within the no trespassing zone of Camp Crystal Lake? And, you know, is like Jason's ghost like in that area? I see that's where I don't.
Yeah, so they call him the Jason's Ghost version?
They call it like there's a couple of different places where he's been referred to as like the Jason Ghost or Ghost Jason. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was, you know, one of the things with Friday movies, Michael Myers movies, Freddy movies, you know, all these horror slasher films, you know, these are like our generation's monsters. You know, like back in the day, it was, you know, the Universal monsters before us with Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, Wolfman, and all that stuff. And so, like when I watch these films, you know, one of the big things for me is, what does the monster look like? Did they do a good job with a mask? Did they make was it? Because, you know, one of the things with these horror films, like when you see the killer, you want to be kind of engaged and interested in him. You don't want to like see it and say like, oh, I don't really care for how that looks. You know, I'm talking to you, Halloween 4, by the way. But anyhow. You know, going back to this Jason, you know, one of the things about this, I was questioning, okay, so is it gonna be like a cool looking Jason? And I actually thought they did a pretty good job with it. You know, for me, like Jason is Friday the 13th Part 3, Friday the 13th Part 4. I love the Richard Booker and the Ted White versions of him, where it's just a real tall, kind of hunchback, you know, crazy looking Jason. Not as big of the Kane Hodder stuff, and I know he did a good job. I'll definitely give him that, but I'm like more into the earlier Jasons. But I thought that this guy did a really good job, and the mask, like, you know, that was another thing I was concerned about. Are they going to veer too far away from, you know, what I think the mask should look like? And yeah, they didn't have the red chevrons on there, but it looked good enough to me where like I can sort of accept that, okay, that, well, you know, maybe they wore off or whatever. If you like, you know, you look at Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and most of the chevrons are worn off by the end of the movie anyway. So, you know, this movie, 2017, you know, clearly it could, that, you know, this guy's living in the woods and whatever. So I could accept that. So for the most part, I would say I would give this Jason like an 8 out of 10. Where I thought he did a really good job portraying it. Maybe there were some parts where it seemed a little bit too much like, oh, this is probably just a fan of Jason who's dressed up in the costume, wearing it, and, you know, shooting this film. And I'm not sure what the negativity would be. I guess it would be more like maybe he wasn't tall enough, maybe he wasn't hunched back enough. I don't know, whatever. But overall, I thought that he did a really good job, especially being in that it's a fan film.
Yeah, it's crazy what you can do anymore with these movies.
Oh, yeah. Right, absolutely.
But these guys, I mean, a lot of this stuff too. I mean, it's not like they're making these for absolutely nothing. Not all of them, but a lot of these guys nowadays, you know, the people that made this Womp Stomp Films or whatever the company is, you know, they're kind of getting kind of known for this. I mean, they made this one. They announced that they were making a prequel to this one called Never Hike in the Snow, and then they're supposedly going to make 3 sequels as well, which should be
really
cool. Yeah, supposedly.
Okay.
And they'll do Kickstarters for all of them, and it'd be like one of these things. And even for this one, I know they did, which I missed out on a couple of times, and I was a little upset about it. But because I'd seen the film after it was made, so I missed out on the initial Kickstarter. But they had done a VHS limited run on it. I was like, oh, that would have been cool.
Very cool.
And then they did another one later on, a real short one, and I missed out on that one. I don't remember if I found out afterwards or whatnot. Guys like this, now when they make stuff, they're almost guaranteed that they're going to hit whatever their Kickstarter goal is or whatever they do, GoFundMe or whatever. Almost guaranteed that they're going to hit their goal. So there's no concern about that. But even the people that don't have, the money that these guys can raise to make a movie, it's amazing what you can do, on a cell phone, just a cell phone anymore. And hell, there's the basic editing software you can get on a laptop anymore. It's just nuts.
Probably the better quality than what they had back in the Paramount days.
Right.
On your cell phone, which is crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this. It wouldn't surprise me if the majority of this wasn't actually shot on a GoPro.
Right, yeah. I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, I saw it. Where was I at the other day when I saw this? It was I've seen them before, but I saw the other day it was at a Target or at a Walmart or something, and they had a Steadicam holder thing for your cell phone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you basically, it's just a handheld thing, and you clip your phone into it.
Right.
And then you can walk around with it and stuff, and it's supposed to stabilize it.
Wow.
I'm
that's crazy.
That's nuts. I remember, in 70, well, it would have been early 78 or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
The Steadicam was this new thing, and it was insanely expensive.
Can you imagine John Carpenter then filming that opening scene of Halloween with the Steadicam on his iPhone? That's so crazy. Unfreaking believable. So yeah, this, I guess the moral of the story with this episode is, hey, if any of you filmmakers out there, have a weekend, got some time to time yourself, why don't you grab your phone, buy a hockey mask on eBay and go film a Friday the 13th movie, because we need some, man. I mean, crap, we haven't had one since 2009. So let's get some Jason movies out there. I think that would that's actually the best, I think, best response to this current lawsuit. How about every person out there, grab your cell phone, get your buddies, your friends, and go film a freaking Jason movie. And put it on YouTube for free for everybody to watch. And then, so by the time, Paramount or whoever, New Line, decides to make a movie, we'll be like, oh, fuck, who cares? We already have 10 sequels that came out since then, and they're much better than anything you guys could have came up with.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And to kind of stay in the same realm with the fan films, but to kind of veer off a little bit, there's some pretty good ones out there for some of the other franchises as well. There's I don't have it in front of me, but there's one about the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. It's called His Name Was Fred or something, but it's on YouTube, and it's similar to this. It's really short. I think that one's only a half an hour long, but it's actually about Fred Krueger. It's kind of like a prequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, to where but you have Fred. He's not burnt up or anything. It's just this guy.
Oh,
and in a fedora, and it's kind of like a courtroom kind of a thing. But he's accused of some stuff, and he gets off, and the parents are all pissed off about it, which leads up to the events of before A Nightmare on Elm Street, of course.
Interesting.
And then I think there's a couple of them out there for Halloween as well. I haven't ever watched any of the ones for Halloween, but I mean, if they're even half as good as Never Hike Alone, and they're only an hour long or shorter, what's the damage in sitting down and watching that?
Right. Exactly.
Better than watching anything new that's coming out with Halloween. That's for damn sure.
That's true. The only thing they got right with the new Halloween movie is the mask. So, and that's not good enough. But anyhow, so that's how. I guess that's a wrap. So I'm going to give it a big giant thumbs up and go see it, watch it, and enjoy it, and let us know what you think. And again, send me a message online on Facebook and let me know if the which mask I should buy next. Part 4, part 6.
Yeah, don't say or whatever. No, I
already have part 5. So
I'm voting
part 4, part 6.
I'm voting the retro NES mask. Does that count?
There you go.
All right, so I'm going to give this one a big thumbs up as well. It's on YouTube. Go check it out, guys. You have to do that as soon as you get done listening to this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.